If you had the ability to control the black people on this planet, there isn't anything that you couldn't take, dismantle, destroy, or interrupt if you could mobilize black people. And so part of the ops agenda, a part of their modus operandi, is to find out which one of you is a potential leader. And if you are, then we begin a work of progress on your life, which will make people get off of that. It's a part of it, as much as in any defense, you trying to figure out which way this dude is likely to go so I can rip that ball. It's the same. You probably wonder, why do white people pay so much attention to black people if they don't like them? You would think if you didn't like something, why would you be paying attention to it? I don't pay attention to things I don't like. The liar knows what lie he told. You see what I'm saying? So even if I made it deceitful and I made you think that the answer's over here, but the answer is really over here, I'm still gonna be looking over here. Me, the one that tricked, because I know this is the right answer. Black people have lost their identity, but our oppressors have not lost our identity. That's just why they chopped those noses off of the Pharaoh and the Sphinx in Egypt in the first place, is because without this nose, we can tell you this is whoever it is. But with that nose, it can only be. Why would somebody vandalize a whole face and only vandalize one part? Nobody wanted to knock an eye off or take an ear off or no chins missing. No, just the nose. Because it's a brand.
Hello lovelies, welcome back to today's episode. White people has been erased most of black history. They tried their best level to let them in that darkness, not to know anything concerning them. They store about their identity, their religion, their origin, here and there, each and everything. Because when you try to observe, a lot of people grew up. We grew up with lies. They told us that white people, they are each and everything. They are superior. They are the most high. Even when you try to observe here and there till death, you find other places, some people, they are still scaring. Whenever they see a white people, they think that they have money, they are rich. They never think that these people would come out to lie about each and everything. Let's get to hear how Black Americans, they made a lot of inventions. They help a lot in the history of America we are seeing right now. Drop your thought in the comment section, then we'll come back with more commentaries.
African Americans have long been acknowledged for their creativity and genius in theater, dance, music, art, and literature. But there's another kind of creative contribution African Americans have made, and that's the art of invention. From the moment you turn a doorknob, flick an on-off switch, start your engine, stop for a traffic light, take an elevator, watch a missile launch, or talk on your cellular phone, you've come into contact with an invention or innovation created by an African American. Since records of inventors' race weren't kept when the U.S. Patent Office was established in 1790, we may never know exactly how many patents were issued to African Americans. Now, probably the person most responsible for gathering information on early black inventors was Henry E. Baker. An assistant U.S. patent officer and graduate of Harvard Law School, Baker dedicated his life to uncovering and publicizing the contributions of black inventors. Under the auspices of the U.S. Patent Office, Baker sent out letters to lawyers throughout the country asking them to identify any black inventors they may have filed patent papers for. In 1913, patent lawyer B.J. Nolan of Chattanooga, Tennessee wrote, "I never knew a nigger to even suggest an idea, much less try to patent one. And I've dealt with them niggers all my life." Baker didn't let letters like that discourage him. By the time of his death, his work produced 4 massive volumes and uncovered some remarkable inventions patented by black men and women. In 18th century America, one black man of inventive genius made a name for himself. A tobacco farmer named Benjamin Banneker. He resembled Benjamin Franklin in stature and was one of the country's most brilliant mathematicians. Inspired by the theories of Copernicus, Banneker became a self-taught astronomer at age 60. In 1754, at the age of 24, Banneker made a clock entirely out of wood, which remained accurate for nearly 40 years. He was one of the surveyors in the planning of Washington, D.C., and a scientific genius. With borrowed books and instruments, Banneker taught himself the fundamentals of astronomy, keeping a journal of his calculations. Besides predicting the weather and seasons, Banneker used his almanac to extol the achievements of blacks beyond himself. When he included a poem written by the renowned poet Phyllis Wheatley, he wrote, "Africans and their descendants are capable of attaining a degree of eminence in the liberal sciences. Benjamin is not the only proof." Wheatley's poem perhaps best echoed their feelings about the injustices of human bondage.
Should you wonder from whence my love of freedom sprung? I young and live by seeming cruel fate was snatched from Africa, fancy happy seat. What pains excruciating must molest, what sorrows labor in my parents' breast. Steeled was that, should and by no misery moved, that from a father sees this babe beloved. Such my case. And can I then but pray, others may never feel tyrannic sway.
Just as Banneker loved the stars, James Forten of Philadelphia loved the sea. One of the original abolitionist leaders, Forten invented a device around 1800 that aided in the control of sails on ships. He amassed a fortune, built his own sail factory, and worked on the Underground Railroad helping slaves to escape. There's an African proverb that says, "As the wound inflames the finger, so thought inflames the mind." And despite their circumstances, slaves created a number of inventions before the Civil War. Until they were considered citizens, however, African-American inventors were ignored, prohibited from securing patents, or slave owners took credit for their discoveries. Such was almost the case of Benjamin Montgomery of Virginia, who invented a propeller specifically designed for river steamboats. Montgomery was owned by Joseph Davis, brother of Jefferson Davis, the future president of the Confederacy. Now, when the brothers tried to patent Montgomery's propeller, Attorney General Jeremiah S. Black enacted a decision in 1858 that prohibited owners from doing so. So, as a result, any slave invention during the next 12 years went undocumented. Before the Civil War, a free black man named Norbert Rilot from New Orleans revolutionized the sugar industry in a bittersweet story. Born on a plantation and educated as an engineer in Paris, Rilot gave the world its biggest economic sugar fix. Making sugar by the slow, dangerous kettle method inspired Rilot to find a better way. And on August 26, 1843, he received his first patent for his sugar refining process, or the multiple effect vacuum evaporator, which turns sugar juice into a fine grade of white sugar crystals. Rilot became a wealthy and influential man in New Orleans, but was still subjected to oppressive race laws. When he was told he'd have to carry a pass to move about the city, Rilot decided to leave America forever and return to France. France's gain was surely America's loss. Industrial growth in America was tremendous, and both black and white inventors were responsible. By 1870, the patent restraints for blacks had been lifted and signaled an explosion of inventions to come. One of those inventions was from Jan Metzelliger, a black immigrant from New Guinea who settled in Lynn, Massachusetts, the center of the shoemaking industry. Now, his invention revolutionized the shoe manufacturing industry and created thousands of jobs. Finally came a century later when a postage stamp commemorated his name and a bridge in his honor was dedicated in his hometown of Lynn, Massachusetts. Folklore as well. If you've ever heard the phrase, the real McCoy, you know what I mean. The phrase was coined for a master inventor, Elijah McCoy, who ultimately patented over 60 lubricating systems, including an air brake system for railroads.
In the late 1870s, most machines, including trains, had to be stopped every time they needed oil. The oilman would walk the length of the train and oil all the moving parts. McCoy devised a method for oiling machinery as it was running. And on June 23, 1872, he received a patent for the lubricating cup. McCoy believed in producing quality work. As a result, his lubricating system was used on locomotives, machinery in factories, and on engines of transatlantic steamships around the world.
McCoy's system was so effective that buyers of new machinery would ask the sellers, "Does the equipment have the real McCoy?" If it didn't, they wouldn't buy it. So if you want the genuine article, the real thing, just ask for the real McCoy. In a country that still had the feeling that the oppressed race had contributed little or nothing, African Americans began to catch the public's attention.
Exhibits at the 1895 Atlanta Exposition and the 1907 Jamestown Exposition gave black inventors the opportunity to showcase their accomplishments. On the flip side, in 1896, the Supreme Court ruled in Plessy versus Ferguson that separate but equal facilities for whites and blacks was constitutional, which marked the beginning of Jim Crow laws and legalized segregation.
Despite the trials and stresses of life, people enjoyed their recreational time, and hobbies were springboards for inventions. Now, take, for instance, dentist George Grant. He loved playing golf. And on December 12, 1899, he received a patent for an object that golfers have been using ever since: the golf tee. Before Grant's inventions, players would form cone-shaped mounds of sand with their fingers on which the ball sat. Now today, this tooth-shaped invention has improved many a golfer's drive.
Just as today's technological revolution celebrates the super information highway, the second half of the 19th century centered around its new age power: electricity. In every school book, the name of Thomas Edison and Alexander Bell are imprinted in our minds. But recognition for their distinguished African-American colleagues, Granville T. Woods and Lewis Latimer, is long overdue. Lewis Latimer was a self-made man who became a pioneer in the development of electricity. He drafted the original plans for Alexander Bell's telephone and made significant contributions to the success of both Thomas Edison and Hiram Maxim, Edison's competitor. While employed with Maxim, Latimer perfected Edison's light bulb by making improvements in the incandescent electric lamp in 1882. He then supervised the installation of electric lighting systems in major cities around the world.
Known as the Black Edison, Granville T. Woods was an electromechanical genius. Like Edison, Woods was years ahead of his time and founded his own company to research, manufacture, and market his electrical inventions. His versatility resulted in 65 patents relating to electricity, from electric railway cars to an incubator for hatching chicken eggs.
When the first subway rail pulled into Grand Central Station, Granville Woods had made his mark. In 1901, he was issued a patent for the third rail system, still used in subways today around the world. Concerned about the number of train collisions, Woods developed a railway telegraphy system, which improved train safety by letting the train engineer know how close his train was to others. And in 1899, he received a patent for an amusement apparatus. Woods' two-track ride, originally invented for indoors and outdoors, evolved into what we now know as the roller coaster.
Wood's inventions caught the public's attention when he won 2 legal disputes against Edison. In fact, when Edison lost the second action, he asked Woods to come work for him. But Woods, whose patents were bought by General Electric, Bell Telephone, and Westinghouse, decided to remain on his own.
By the turn of the century, a surge of inventions was well underway. African Americans received an estimated 1,000 patents by 1913 in nearly every field of industrial arts, machinery, transportation, agricultural, and electrical devices.
Garrett Morgan was constantly thinking about the future. He'd say, if it's in a book, you can do it. If it's not, then use your imagination. And despite having only a 6th grade education, Morgan's inventions, the traffic signal and the gas mask, became 2 of the world's most significant safety-related devices. American scientists have made phenomenal contributions as well. Grammy-winning composer Stevie Wonder even wrote a song about one of them. Dr. George Washington Carver, best known for his work with the peanut and its 300 or more derivative products, which include instant coffee, bleach, tan remover, metal polish, paper, ink, shaving cream, rubbing oil, linoleum, paint, and plastic. Carver was a man on a mission.
A scientific genius, Carver felt a deep affinity for farmers and convinced them to grow diversified crops, such as peanuts, pecan, and sweet potatoes, in place of one crop, cotton, to re-nourish their soils. A deeply spiritual man, Carver also obtained fame as an artist. His varied interests led to his close friendship with Henry Ford, who shared his fascination with synthetic rubber. Carver's research as an agricultural chemist won him international acclaim. When Carver died in 1943 in Alabama, the governor and crowds of people came to honor him. The U.S. Postal Service issued a memorial stamp for the man who was dubbed the Savior of the South.
Madam C.J. Walker became a millionaire as a result of her hair care products. And although she didn't patent any of her products, she was a pioneer entrepreneur and an inspiration to women around the world.
In 1885, Sarah Good received her patent for a folding bed, a forerunner of today's sofa bed. Sarah Boone was issued a patent in 1892 for her improvement to the ironing board. Alice H. Parker wanted to warm each room in her building with centralized heating and received a patent for her improvement on the heating furnace in 1919. And Harriet Bradbury patented her torpedo discharger for submarines in 1943.
Ellen Elgin, who patented a financially successful clothes wringer in the 1880s, sold her device to an agent for $18. Elgin's feelings mirrored a long-standing practice of black inventors, both men and women, who chose to sell their inventions to whites or white-controlled corporations for fear of their inventions losing value if their true identities were known. The contributions inventors and scientists have made is tremendous. As we look to the future, there are 2 African Americans who are continuing that creativity. Take the case of ophthalmologist Dr. Patricia Bath, who in 1988 received a patent for the laser phaco probe. Now, that's a device that removes cataracts. Dr. Bath holds the patents for her inventions in Japan, Canada, Europe, and the United States.
I was once referred a very difficult and challenging case of a blind woman. I spent many nights thinking and planning her surgery. And then, by divine inspiration, an idea occurred of a new way to remove cataracts using a fiber-guided laser. I realized that this technique was a great improvement in cataract surgery. I then conducted some research studies in Berlin, and it was at that point that I developed my first of many prototypes of the laser phaco probe. As a black woman surgeon, it's very difficult to overcome some of the stereotypic impressions of male colleagues. When I joined the faculty of UCLA in 1974, I was the first woman faculty member in the Department of Ophthalmology. I imagine my colleagues did not feel that I could be equally gifted and skilled. However, I now accept the challenge because it made me struggle to be the very best.
Engineer Lonnie Johnson strikes a chord of success in two very different worlds with his invention.
I've been an inventor all my life. As long as I can remember, I have been tinkering and making things work. So I decided to do a water gun or something simple that most people could appreciate and use the revenues from that invention as a stepping stone to allow me to do some of my more challenging ideas. The role of the inventor is like the barnstormer, the guy who comes in and shakes everything up and is able to take on the big boys.
From telephones to electric street lighting, from refrigerated trucks to automatic transmissions, and from artificial heart stimulators to space shuttle retrieval arms, African-American inventors have triumphed over adverse conditions and continue to contribute to scientific and innovative discoveries that benefit the global community. We've met just a few of the men and women who are making it happen. We hope that you will visit your local library and continue the journey.
A lot of people are still coming out to explain, to talk about, to educate more about the Black history, because this time around, I think it's something people really need to know about. There is no any way you trust some people. Keep writing about your history, keep trying to store each and everything from you. They never wanted for you to know who you are, where you came from, who you belongs to, where you belongs to. This time around, when you see a lot of things coming out in the public, this is the good opportunity people have to understand, to get to know more about their roots, their history. When you try to hear this, Katt Williams is trying to say, how come we know that Black Americans are from Egypt because they are true Hebrews, but when you try to see why they went there and they smashed all those noses, why they try to hide each and everything connected to those noses, what is the meaning of this? Why these people, they always focus so much about the Black people, especially in America? Whenever Black people do something, you see it will cause a lot of commotion. Each and everyone will talk about it. Each and everyone will say, what are they doing? Why these people this time around they are resting? What are they busy looking for? Why we are not seeing them talking anything about this current situation? When you see something like this happen, it doesn't mean they are just asking why you are resting just like that. They always know that you are capable of doing a lot of things. They knew very well your roots. They knew very well what you are capable of doing. They knew very well your identity, what God is talking about, your race. This is the way they always try to know each and everything concerning you. When we are trying to see this time around, we talk about the Black history. We talk about how Black Americans has been stolen in the land of Africa. Some of them they brought on this land of America in a painful way, in a struggle way. This is something when you try to talk about it, it's really bring a lot of emotions, because sometimes as human beings we couldn't even understand how these things really happen, how these people manage to stay more than 400 years passing through this painful harassment, treatment, abusive, aggressive. They never had any light to do whatever they want. They take away each and everything connected to their roots. And this time around, when you see some people trying to come out to talk about this history, it's to encouraging this young generation to know very well how they've been storing, they've been storing their creativity, they storing their knowledge, they storing each and everything connect to them. When you are seeing these Black inventions, you have seen Black people had that talent, because these people, they are God's chosen people. The time God came out to create a human being, He started with a black human. When you try to see these Black Americans, the way they brought a lot of inventions on this land of America, and you connect this day, the way they treat them in a harsh way, they don't want anyone to recognize their inventions. They don't want anyone to talk about them. When you try to see in most white families, they stop their kids to hear anything concerning black people because they don't want this kid to grow up knowing these people as the most high, as God is chosen, because it will affect their health mental. They will ask them a lot of questions about them. No wonder we are keep seeing nowadays whoever want to talk about black people, black history, some people they will get mad at him. Even these white people who are still coming out to talk about black history, each and everything connected to them, they will get a lot of disadvantage from their community. Some of them, they disown them from their own families. This is what we keep saying. There is no any way if some people would try their best level, people not to know about black history, black people themselves, they are going to keep talking about themselves because it's them who passed through this. It's them who had the ancestors who passed through this, and they are still passing in this trauma because you can't tell. Your great grandma told you what happened, and also it is something you are experiencing yourself. When they bury you where you walk, where they bury you in a restaurant, in a train, in an airplane, this is what your ancestors passed through. And they passed through more 100 times more than you are seeing. But when you had that history, you are working with it in your head. And when something like this come on your way, you will immediately understand what it means to be black in a white land. What it means to be a black when you are in a big group of people who never wish anything good comes from you. When you try to see this time around, when some people, they still thinking that the white people, they have each and everything, they were the most chosen, they are superior. When you try to see how some people, it will take some time to understand that all history we've been hearing, we've been lied to, all these things, invasions they try to put on this other race, though it was black invasions. Some people, they will ask a lot of questions. Some people, they couldn't even understand what is really happening, but this is the reality. It's a high time the whole world, they need to start understanding that enough is enough. Black people has been storing a lot of things, has been storing from their motherland. They store most of their things. This is the time people need to stand up and reign and they rise up their voices. If you can't stand this time around, there is no other way you are going to let your generation to know each and everything which is happening. No wonder when you see us coming up here to talk about these things, this is for education purpose because we wish a lot of people will learn more about this. When we are talking about Egypt, black people coming from Egypt, and when we go in Egypt, they don't want us to know more about museum there. They hide a lot of things connected to black people. They are trying to convince us that the Egyptian people were white, and yet we know they were black people. These are the people Bible talking about. We are talking about how these people, some of them were stolen from that land to go doing slavery in America. You don't want anyone to hear about it. Black people, they will talk about it. This is the fact. Guys, let me know what you think about today's episode. Drop your thought in the comment section. Thank you for watching. See you in my next episode. Bye.